Okay, we're going through the different skilas, right? And one by one, we mentioned Avodah Zarah. We mentioned yesterday we did Molech, and today we're doing what? We're doing Over Yedoni. Today we're doing the Over Yedoni. It says again, these people get skill. Exactly what they are is seems to be Machloikis Rishonim. We'll get into that Machloikis soon. I think, as opposed to yesterday where I gave you everything up front. I'd like to do the first piece of Gemara is more Gemara oriented than identification, and then the Amid Beis will get into Over Yedoni. And if you'll bear with me, I'd like to go through a very interesting parsha in the Navi, Shmuel Aleph, where Shol goes to the Balas Over of Eindar, which I'm not going to necessarily get a chance to do. So I'd like to go ahead and share it with you. Okay, so we're up to Samechei Amid Aleph. Baal Oiv says the Mishnah. What is a Baal Oiv? Ze pitoim hamedaber mishechyov. That's a pitoim that speaks from the armpit. Says Rashi. Shema mechashev. It's the name of the magician. Hamedaber mishechyov, who speaks from his what? From his armpit. Mala es hames min haaretz. Says Rashi, they bring up the dead, and place the dead in their armpit, underneath their arm, and it speaks Mishechi. This is Rashi's interpretation of what Ov is. You bring up the dead and you place it underneath your armpit, and it would speak to you. And would tell you futures. As we're going to see, it would tell you futures. The Yedaini, what is the Yedaini? Zehamedabe bepiv, that speaks what from the mouth. Rashi, Yidoni Hamadaber bepiv, Kidim Mefarish B'Gemara, Chaya Achas, Yesh, there's a Chaya, Sheshmo Yedoa, which was called the Yedoa, Umachnes Mimenu Etzem L'Teich Piv, you would take a bone from that Chaya, put it in your mouth, for Etzem Medaber Me'elov, and the Etzem would speak by itself, Ayidei Kshafim through Kishuv, and would tell you futures. Harieli Beskila. Anyone who practices this is Beskila Kidchsiv Be'Even Yirgemu Oisam. However, the Mishnah tells us V'Nishal Behem, one who goes to them is Ashara. It's a lav. In other words, if you go to them, that you're not Chayiv Skila. If you practice it, you're Chayiv Skila, which is one of the problems I always had with Shol. Is Shol, as we see, Shol had killed out all of them. He killed out all of them. And there was one left, and because she had stopped, and he asked him to do it again. I never answered this question. First of all, how could he be over the? I mean, good. It was in a tough spot, but how could he turn to? And how could he ask? Isn't it if they evilly see michshol? You're asking this person to mechayiv skila. It's a problem. It's a problem. Okay. Anyway, we'll get to that soon. Says the Gemara. Now, there's a Mishnah in Krisos where it lists the 36 Krisos. It lists Ov, it doesn't lift Yedoni. So the Gemara goes ahead and contrasts the Mishnah in the first daf of Krisis, daf Beis, to Samechei in Sanhedrin. Maishna Hacha, what's the difference here in Sanhedrin? Diktani Bal Oiv Yedoni, you mentioned Bal Oiv Yedoni. Umaishna Gabe Krisos, Diktani Bal Oiv V'Shayir Yedoni. You list Bal Oiv, but you do not go ahead and say anything about Yedoni. You list Bal Oiv, but you don't say anything about Yedoni. Why? So we have two terutzim. Rabbi Yochanan Amar. Rabbi Yochanan says, "Hoyel v'shneim belav echad nemru." Now there's a very long Rashi over here. Rashi basically tells you that if they're underneath the same lav, you'll only be chayiv once. So let's say you did over Yidoni behelam echad. Since it's the same lav, atifnu alovis Yidonim, you only be chayiv once. So therefore, there's listing numbers. So therefore, you get 36 without over Yidoni, because if you over Yidoni would do separate lavim, it would be 37. So since it's under the same umbrella, it's under the same lav, you'll only be chayiv once, says Rabbi Yochanan, therefore over here it's mentioning chayiv skila. If you did ov, you be chayiv skila. If you did Yidoni, be chayiv skila. But over there where it's listing the chayiv krisos, and you chiyuvim, if b'shogeg you be chayiv achatos, it does not list what? It does not list Yidoni because you would only be chayiv once. That's Rabbi Yochanan's teretz. Rabbi Yochanan Mahoil v'shneim b'lav echad nemru. Reish Lakish Amar Yidoni lefi she'ein boy ma'isa. The reason why it doesn't list Yidoni over there is because there is no ma'isa. You don't do any action. It seems by the Baal Ov to get the dead up, you had to do some kinds of action, some kind of flapping of making noise. But Yidoni, you simply took the bone and put it in your mouth. That's not considered an action. So since it's not considered an action, you're not chayiv achatas. If you look at Rashi, fellas, go down right before when the Gemara ends. Go up about 6 lines. This is why we didn't list it over there in Masechta Krisos. Even if you did Yidoni alone, lav bar karbinhu, it does not bring a carbon. And since you don't bring a carbon, even though you have a karis, you're not bringing carbon. I'm not going to list it over there. If you she'ein ba ma'isa, v'chatas ein ba ela ala ma'isa. Chatas can only come if you do an action. Since there's no action associated with Yidoni, you don't bring a chatas. Mamela, it's not listed over there. But according to Reish Lakish, ein nachinami, you would be chayiv. If you did Ov and Yidoni together, you would be chayiv. Behelam echad. He disagrees with Rabbi Yochanan, right? He goes here. You have to bang with your arms. Kid will come on, as we'll see. Okay, so now that's considered a Maisa. So we have 2 Terutzim, guys. Very important to get it because the first Amid is going to go ahead and take it right through. So, question. In our Sechta, we list over Yidoni. That's not a Kasha. That's not a Kasha. Why? Our Mishnah is listing Chayve Skila, and these are both Chayve Skila. However, why over there, over Yidoni are always brought together. In the Torah, they're brought together. Why there increases so they don't list Yidoni? Says Reish Lakish, I'll tell you why. Because Ov and Yidoni are on the only be chayiv once. So once I list Ov, I don't have to list Yidoni. Says Reish Lakish, since you won't be chayiv achatos, if you did it b'shogeg, why wouldn't you be chayiv achatos if you did it b'shogeg? Because there's no ma'isa. The male it doesn't list Yidoni. Mashen kein Ov, there is a ma'isa associated with Ov, some type of clapping of the hands and making noise. Those are the 2 derachim. Okay. Rabbi Yochanan, Maishna Bal Oiv Dinaket, right? Why did you learn, according to Rabbi Yochanan, Oiv and Yidoni are interchangeable, right? Because you only chayiv for one. Why did you opt for Ov rather than Yidoni? Rabbi Yochanan, Maishna Bal Oiv Dinakat, Mishun the Pasuk by Beikra, Ov Yidoni. They always say Ov first. Reish Lakish, my time like Omar Rabbi Yochanan. What did Reish Lakish like about Rabbi Yochanan's pshat? And you know what the answer is? He said you be chayiv twice. Guys, he said you be chayiv twice. So Memela, that can't be the chilik why Yidoni's not listed over there. You, Rabbi Yochanan, says the chilik is why, because you only chayiv once. Behelam echad. He says you be chayiv twice. It's under the same lav. Says the Gemara. Reish Lakish, my time alone with Rabbi Yochanan. Amra Papa, chalukim heim b'misa. The chalik b'misa. In other words, it says Misa by both of them. So Misa is mechalik it to 2 separate lavim. Memela, you will be chayiv twice. So if that's so, if you're correct, you'd have to list over Yidoni. So therefore, I said it's because of Misa. Therefore, I said it's because there's no Misa, there's no chatas. But it can't be als lavim because the Misa is mechalik to 2 separate lavim, and Memela, you would be chayiv. Rabbi Yochanan, chaluka the lav shma chaluka, and chaluka the Misa lo shma chaluka. So in other words, only a lav, and since the lav is not mechulik, you only chayiv once. Misa, 2 separate misas is not mechalik. Rabbi Yochanan, who says, "What did he like? My time aloi Omar Reish Lakish." What did he like about Reish Lakish's teretz? In other words, fellas, if giving your druthers, if you have two terutzim, why do you choose one over the other? So the answer to Reish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan is Reish Lakish, right? Rabbi Yochanan couldn't agree with Reish Lakish because he didn't agree with Reish Lakish. In other words, he only had one option. Reish Lakish's Misa being Mechalik is not an option for Rabbi Yochanan because it's not Mechalik. Only a lav is Mechalik. Now, why did Rabbi Yochanan like about Reish Lakish's teretz? So good. So Rabbi Yochanan guys could say the following. He could say the reason why you don't say Yidoni because it's one lav, or he could say there's no Maisa, right? If he agrees with Reish Lakish, so maybe since there's no Maisa Yidoni, there's no Chatas. So why did he opt to go in that direction rather than the Maisa? That's the Gemara's kasha. So Fred the Gemara, Rabbi Yochanan, my time lemon Reish Lakish. So no, what's the answer? He disagrees with Reish Lakish. There's no druthers giving you druthers over here. There's no druthers. There's only one way to go. right? Amalach Maslisan decreases Rabbi Akiva. The Mishnah increases according to Rabbi Akiva. The Amalebin and Maisa. You don't need a Maisa. So in other words, I only had one option to go ahead and say why you don't. He's not listed because it's one lav. I didn't have the option like Reish Lakish. Again, you guys, the Gemara goes two directions. You have two different reasons. So why did you opt for this reason rather than this reason? So the Gemara is saying is you didn't have two reasons. Like Rabbi Yochanan, you only had one reason. Like Reish Lakish, you only had one reason. Like Reish Lakish, you only had one reason. There was no Maisa. Why? Because Lavin, you be chayiv to Lavin. Like Reish Lakish, like Rabbi Yochanan, you only had one reason. Lavin. Why? Because that Mishnah is according to Rabbi Akiva. So if else the necessity for a Maisa, if that Mishnah is according to Rabbi Akiva, you don't need a Maisa. So therefore, he only had one possible teretz. Why you don't learn? You don't need. Okay, now. If that Mishnah is according to Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Yochanan's gerecht, Rabbi Yochanan's right. Says the Gemara of Reish Lakish, Nehid loy boy Rabbi Akiva Maisa Rabba. Good, he doesn't need a big Maisa, Rabbi Akiva, but Maisa Zuta boy, right? He needs a little Maisa. He needs a little Maisa. And by Yidoni, there's no little Maisa. By Yidoni, there's no little Maisa. In other words, what's his teretz? When you say Rabbi Akiva does not need a Maisa, it doesn't mean he doesn't need any Maisa. You know what it means? He doesn't need a big Maisa. But he needs something. He needs something. Now, the question is, there Megadef, blasphemy, going ahead and benching Hashem, what Maisa do you have there? And Rabbi Akiva does consider it. So now Reish Lakish has a question on himself. Boy, Megadef, for the Gemara, Megadef my Maisa Ikka. And for the Gemara, Akima Svasav, the uttering of the lips, having Maisa. The uttering of the lips is a Maisa. Bal Oiv my Maisa Ikka. According, again, if that Mishnah is according to Rabbi Akiva, and you need a Maisa, what Maisa is associated with Balas Oiv? Says Gemara, Hakoshas Ro Yosef having Maisa. It seems again, I don't know if they flapped their hands, they banged their hands, but they did some action with their hands. Good? Okay, so let's go now. So what's our teretz? What's our teretz? Rabbi Yochanan said that Mishnah is Rabbi Akiva. Therefore, the reason why Yidoni is not listed has nothing to do with a Maisa, because Rabbi Akiva does not need a Maisa. So therefore, the reason must be because what? Because it's one lav. And Reish Lakish, no, it's two lavim. Why? Because Misa is mechalik. In mechalik to two chiyuvim. I say lavim, two chiyuvim. So therefore, that can't be the reason. What must the reason be? Maisa. Fred Gemara and Reish Lakish, 1 second. If it's a Maisa, the Mishnah goes according to Rabbi Akiva, like Rabbi Yochanan said. And Rabbi Akiva does not need a Maisa. So Reish Lakish is fine-tuning that statement that Reish Akiva does not require a Maisa, doesn't mean it's not absolute. It means he doesn't need some big Maisa, but Epis a Maisa he does need. Fred the Gemara by Megadef, what Maisa does he have? And Megadef is listed, increases. And for the Gemara, you know what he has? He has the utterance of the lips, the moving of the lips. Fred the Gemara, Baal Oiv, what Maisa do you have Baal Oiv calling up the dead? Says the Gemara, some type of movements of the hands, clapping, I don't know, whatever they do with their hands, that's a Maisa. Good? Now, Fred the Gemara, so now you're all good. Meaning I hope you're all good. Says the Gemara, Ve'afilu l'Rabbanon, and even the Rabbanon is going to require what? A Maisa. Even Rabbanon, you're going to say, Rabbanon require a Maisa. They disagree with Rabbi Akiva. If I feel a Rabbanon, right? So if Rashi says, if I feel a Rabbanon come Reish Lakish to have a Maisa, Pitmiya, Klaimar, Midlay Polig Rabbanon Aleha Hasam, Elad Megadef, Avul Bal Chayv Moida, Alma Koshas Roisa Bal Chayv, Avi Maisa. That you're seeing that Bal Chayv, that in other words, he only argued by Megadef, and he didn't argue by what? By Bal Oiv. So meaning he held Bal Oiv, that little action he did, to be a good Maisa. Fred Gemara on that, Vatanya, Ein Chayev El Al Dava Sheyesh Ba Maisa. By Avodah Zarah, you only chayev something that's a Maisa. Gon Zivuach, bringing a carbon, Keter, burning incense, V'nisach, libations, V'ishtachave, and bowing down. V'om Reish Lakish, Man Tanish Tachava, Rabbi Akivahi, the Amar Loi Bein in Maisa. So the question, You're telling me that the Chachamim agree that the shuckling of the hands is a Maisa. 1 second. They don't hold, it's no different. Hishtachava. Hishtachava is not a Maisa. He said Hishtachava goes according to Rabbi Akiva, meaning Hishtachava will not be a Maisa. So that meaning Rabbanon, so why would they say that Ov is a good Maisa? Says the Gemara, Rabbi Yochanan afilu temer Rabbanon. Kefifas kaimasl Rabbanon have a Maisa. That even the bowing of the head is a Maisa. So bowing of the head, Ishtachva is considered a Maisa. Fred Gemara, Hashel ve'shlokish kfikas kamasli l'Rabbanon lo have a Maisa. Hakashas rois of the Baloiv have a Maisa. In other words, if you're telling me according to Reish Lakish that bowing down is not a Maisa, you're going to tell me something movements of the hands is a Maisa. So we're asking, the Rabbanon require a Maisa Zuta, says Reish Lakish, and a Maisa Zuta is 1 second, guys. So look, Reish Lakish says bowing down is not a Maisa. Bowing down is not a Maisa, but shuckling of the hands is. That's what you're saying. Good. So because that's how you're teaching Balasoiv, that you do something with your hands. It says Kikam Reish Lakish Nami L'Rei Akiva. When he said that the moving of the hands is according to Rabbi Akiva, not according to the Rabbanon. Our Rabbanon loy, if the Rabbanon says that guys that shuckling of the hands is not a Maisa, so therefore what? Ihachi Yatsa Megadef Ubal Oiv Mi Boilei. You should say Yatsa. They argue in two things. A, they argue Megadef, that Rabbi Akiva says yes and the Chacham say no. Ubal Oiv also, that Bal Oiv the Chacham say is not a Maisa. Again, you Reish Lakish are saying that according to the Chachamim, that if bowing down is not a Maisa, then the Bal Oiv, the shuckling of the hands, is not a Maisa. Good. You go ahead and look at the Mishnah and Krisus, guys. So what does it say? Megadef. The Chachamim argue. Now, according to Reish Lakish, you also say Ov. They should argue there as well. Just like Akima Sfasav is not a Maisa. If the Chacham holds shuckling is not a Maisa, bowing down, then the moving of the hands is also not a Maisa. That's the Kasha. Yet it only says Megadef. It doesn't say, they agree Bal Oiv. That's what the Gemara is asking right now. Fred Gemara give Nachamel. You should say, according to the Chachamim, that Magadef and Baloiv. So you guys, you know what we're going to change now? We're going to change the way you serve Oiv. Baloiv does not mean shuckling of the hands. It means where you're makta to shade. You're bringing shade them together. You're bringing shade them together. You're being makta to shade. If you're being makta, that's a Maisa. So therefore, you did not learn Megadef and Ov, because Ov is not what you thought until now. It doesn't mean shuckling to bring up the dead. It means that you go ahead and you burn to shade him. Burning is a Maisa. Amle Rava, Mekatel l'shade over Avodas Kachavimhu. That's not Ov. That's serving Avodah Zarah. And we already listed Avodah Zarah there in the Mishnah and Krisus, guys. We listed Avodah Zarah in the Mishnah and Krisus. So how can you go ahead and list Ov? Said Ella Amarava b'makdel lechaver. You know what you're doing? You're being makdir to go ahead and gather together creatures, dangerous creatures. You're going ahead and doing dangerous creatures. Amle Abaya hamakdel lechaver chayva chaveru. That's a person that what it's lechayra, it's chayva chaver and it's only a lav. Guys, this we're saying the following. We have a problem. We need the Chacham to have a Maisa. That Ov should be a Maisa. We don't have a Maisa. So, in other words, why don't we have a Maisa? Because whatever the shuckling of the hands is, it can't be more of a Maisa than a Shtachava. And a Shtachava, according to Chachamim and Reish Lakish, is not a Maisa. So if that's not a Maisa, then Ov is not a Maisa. So you're right. We'll go ahead and say exactly what was Ov. We'll do Ov over. Excuse the pun. We'll do it over again. Good? Actually, it's pretty good. We'll do it over again, right? And so what are we doing over? We're saying you're being makta to shade him. The problem is makta to shade him is not ov, it's avodah zarah. And that's listed as skila. So the Gemara is saying now it's being makter to bring animals together. Fred the Gemara, choy v'chev is a lav, it's not skila. That Mishnah in Krisus is listing skila. Yechayiv chorus without Adam, skill is where Adam has sra. That's not. I said skill. I don't mean skill. I mean that there was a chi of chorus, right? And l'chari, it's only a lav. It's not karis. So Fred Gemara Kasha, if you're being makta to bring animals together, dangerous creatures together, that's not what. That's a lav. It's not karis. Says the Gemara in. It is. V'Torah Amra chayve ze beskila. This chayve is beskila. In other words, there is different types of chaver. Guys, look at Rashi. From the bottom, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines from the bottom. If you're going to go ahead and be mocked there to bring these animals together, that's skila. Tiritzu, it's a teretz. Miacha shemechaber es hashedim b'mezid omra Torah shei b'skila v'chol shizadayna chayiv misa al shigagasli maybe carbon dechi omar choy v'chaver eina elabaz hara. That's only a lav. Zeh hamechaber chayos behemis nechashim v'akrovim l'makam echad. You're bringing wild animals and dangerous reptiles together. Al yidei l'choshim. That's when it's a lav. Masha Enkain, when it's going ahead and being mocked there to bring these animals to, then it's a chiv skila. When you're bringing shadim, it's a chiv skila. So, El Omer Rabbi Machtel Chaver. Machtel Chaver Chaver. In the Torah Chaver says, Chaver Zeh, Chaver Zeh, if you're going ahead and being mocked there, I thought, I'm not sure I had the right shot. I thought it was meant that you're mocked to a shade, but you just said shade to avoid the zara. So maybe it was the same Chaver, the same the shade. What's the pshat? What's the pshat? Yeah, it's the being shading together. It's the being shading together. What's the difference? I guess one is you're being there's one is you're going ahead and being mocked to a shade. Over here you're being mocked to be mechabe shadim. Says Rashi, this be mechabe shadim is skila. Choy v'chever that you said is a lav is for animals and reptiles, but this for being mocked to get demons together, that would be why the chi of skila. Whether it's large animals or it's small animals, shkatzim ramashim, or insects or creepy crawlers, even snakes and scorpions. Amra Rabbi Hilkach. Haiman did summit zibura vakrava, person who goes ahead puts together a bee and a scorpion. Even though what his kavanah is that what you should not bite him, so the damage him masa. Okay, good. Now, according to Rabbi Yochanan said the Chachamim said hishtacheve is a maisa, but akima svasav is not a maisa. Right? So Fred the Gemara again, Megadef. We saw Megadef was not considered a maisa. Hishtacheve, guys. In other words, this is we have pshat now. Two pshatim, Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish. Why the difference? The Mishnah. Why they don't list Yedoni in the Mishnah increases. Extrapolating from this Gemara is two concepts. We said that hishtacheve is considered a maisa when you go like this, but when you move your lips by megadef, it's not. What's the difference, guys? If this is a maisa, then it's also a maisa, right? What's the difference between going like this and moving your lips? Yeah, moving your lips was not a maisa. That's why they argued on megadef in the Mishnah increases. Yet they said over here hishtacheve, this bowing down, the Mishnah over the Avodah Zarah is a maisa. Fred the Gemara, Rabbi Yochanan, Maishna the Kfivas Kamasa lo Rabbanon have a Maisa, Vakima Svasav lo have a Maisa. Amarava shiny Megadef. Megadef is different. Benching Hashem is different. Hoyel v'yeshna believe. Let's say Rashi. Hoyel v'yeshna believe. 2 lines from the bottom. Iker chiyuv habo elav. The iker chiyuv of benching Hashem is totally believe. It has nothing to do with as much as what your kavanah is. Shem iskavin levarich Hashem. In Mechaben to bench Hashem. Shafil mevarech as Hashem kol hayoyim. Even if you bench Hashem the whole day, again, benching Hashem is a euphemism for the opposite, guys. The aim believe by klapping ma'ila, and even you're saying it but you don't mean it. Ela shehelas Hashem ledavar acher umachneu b'shem amiyuchad mekala and mechuyev. You will be mechuyev. So we know the difference. Hishtachave when you move your head, you're to avoid the zara. your your actions, your pivali by shavin. Mashenkin, where you go ahead and move your lips, and what? Since the ikar is what you're thinking, then the moving of the lips itself is not Maisa. Okay. Amid base. Masa Reb Zera. Right. Masa Reb Zera. Reb Zera, yes, the kasha. Yotsu Edom Zaimimim. You would not bring a chatas by Edom Zaimimim. You wouldn't be bechatas by Edom Zaimimim. She'em behem Maisa. Because they only move their lips. V'amai halesn who believe, right? You're telling me that the ikar avera of really akimis svasa should be a maisa, but birchas Hashem is not a maisa because it's totally what you have in your mind. Now by edim zoymimim, right? The avera is not what they have in mind; it's what they say. So why don't you bring a chatas there? So Merava shiny edim zoymimim hoyel v'yeshna b'koyel, right? Since the yeshna b'koyel, the ikar is not their lips, the ikar is the koyel, and the koyel is not a maisa. The ikar is what you hear them say, and what you say is not a maisa. So since what you say is not a maisa, therefore it's not a chatas. Again, this is just a side point. We're going off a bit tangentially to go ahead and after explaining the Mishnah in Krisis, the difference between megadef and hishtacheveh. Okay, what was the difference? Megadef the ikar is believe. Fred the Gemara, if the ikar believe makes it not a maisa, but the action of the lips is a maisa. So it's not what they have inside; it's what they say. It's the lips. So why don't they chayv chatas? Only chayv chatas by a maisa. So why don't you chayv chatas? On that, the Gemara says because the ikar is not their lips, the ikar is what comes out, the koil. The ikar is the koil, and the koil is not a maisa. So says the Gemara, the koil Rabbi Yochanan lav maisahu. You mean the koil contra Rabbi Yochanan is not a maisa? 1 second. For itmar, let's say there's an issue of like sachsim shar b'dishar. So the shar, usually you muzzle the shar. Let's say the shar is about to eat, and you go and the shar in other words, you're choisim with your koil, you will be chayiv. Slav shem b'maisa. What do you see? That the koil is considered a maisa. For the Gemara, like Rabbi Yochanan, chasorim b'koil, right? V'enhiga b'koil. If you choisim an animal, or let's say you have a shor and a chamor together, you chayiv if they walk together. So you say, "Hey, ox, come here," and they come chayiv. You be chayiv from malchus. Where's your ma'isa? It's allowed shem ma'isa. Veishlakasham pata. Rabbi Yochanan chayiv. Why? Akima svasa of havi ma'isa. Veishlakasham pata. Akima svasa le'avi ma'isa. So l'chayra, back to the original question. By Edom Zoymim, they should be chayiv achatas because they did a ma'isa of akima svasa of late Rabbi Yochanan. Elam Rava shiny Edom Zoymim hoyel v'yeshna b'ri'iyah. Right? Because the avera is based upon what they saw. What they saw and seeing is not a ma'isa. Seeing is not a ma'isa. Okay. Now the Gemara is going to describe a little bit about Oivin Yedoni. Okay. Now we're going to go off and get back to exactly what Oivin Yedoni are, and a little more elaborate than the Mishnah. Tanrabanan Bal Oiv Zeh HaMedaber Ben HaProkim. It speaks between the prokim joints. Umevin etzila yadav, right? Umibein etzila yadav, or between the elbow. Good. So in other words, this be consistent with Rashi in the Mishnah. You're bringing up a dead person, and the dead person is appearing. The sound of the dead person is coming from. The sound of the person is coming from what? From either the dead person is there, but you don't see the dead person, fellas. That's the thing about the Baal Oiv. The Baal Oiv sees it, and the person calling it up hears it. In other words, when Shaul goes to the Baal Oiv, he asks the Baal Oiv, "What do you see?" She tells him what you see. It was Shmuel. Shmuel speaks to Shaul. The Baal Oiv does not hear. And Amasa and Avner, who were there, they didn't hear or see. So that's the rule of thumb of Ov. The one calling it up sees, the one who is called up for hears, and the one neither, none. Okay, that seems to be a popular opinion. Yidoni You put the etzem of this animal called the yadoa in your mouth. It speaks by itself. Meisivei v'hoya ke'oiv me'eretz koilech malav demishtoi ke'urchei, that it's speaking from the grave, not from your armpit or from your some joint in your body. Like the solik, it comes up v'yaseh ben aprokim, it sits between aprokim u'mishtoi, and it speaks from there. Toshma v'toyma ishel shol, the woman said to Shol, this is when we're going to do this pretty soon. Elohim ra'isi oilim min haaretz, I see Elohim, I see prestigious leaders coming up from the ground. My love, the mishtoi ki urche, they came up from the grave. Loi, the yaseh bein haprakim, they were sitting bein haprakim, umishtoi, and they were speaking. In other words, ki urche means they came up head first. Tanabanan. Bal oiv echad hamayla b'sekuroi, whether he's Maila b'sekuroi, that's the male aver, the echad initial b'gogolis, or it could be that he's asking from some type of skull. Now, exactly what that skull is, the Radak says it was some type of marble skull, and some people, the Ramban seems to say it was made out of schuchis, of the mace itself, And this thing about zichra is very strange to say that the Baal Ov comes up, fellas, on the male aver when Shol went to a Balasov. It's good kasha, right? Shol went to a female.
You said she was the last one left. Maybe that's it.
No, but again, if it would appear, if you look at the bottom Tosfos, he says, "Ma'ilib is kuroi, pirsha kuntrish, ma'ilib moishev ames al zikuroi, v'lo yitachin bebalas of the shol." It's not possible by the balas of a shol. Elanira says Tosfos, the shem machshefa is kachu. Oivin yidoni are the name of zikuroi is the name of Yedaya. Kachu tergumoy da'oiv v'yidoni. B'targimina, you look at the targum, it says biyadin v'sachurin. I looked it up, it says the kurin with a dalit. But l'chayra, so you want to say zechura is the name of the Yidoni. But it's a little schwer because if zechura is Yidoni and we're discussing Baal Ov, you're not giving the name to the right place. A kitza, it's a little, again, beyond my pay scale. But weiter anyway. A little more. It does not, Baal Ov does not come up kedarkoi, meaning it doesn't come up head first, it comes up feet first. The Eino Oile b'Shabbos, and it doesn't come up on Shabbos. Nishal b'Gagolis, however, if you ask from the skull, Oile kedarkoi comes up feet first, head first, Oile b'Shabbos. You're telling me the skull is coming up. The skull is there. It's on the ground. What do you mean it's coming up? Hakami monach. It's lying in front of him. El ema oina kedarkoi v'oina b'Shabbos. It'll answer kedarkoi, not oila, and not oila. It'll answer kedarkoi and answer on Shabbos. Switch the lamed for a nun. Dav shelazu shol Turnasrupis as Rabbi Akiva, and Turnasrupis asked Rabbi Akiva. Amaloi. Turnasrupis was the governor of Judea. Was the Rosh Marusha. He went ahead. He plowed over the Makam HaMikdash. And he was always confrontational with Rabbi Akiva. So, Amaloi, Umay Yom Meyamayim, why is Shabbos different than any other day? Amaloi, Umay Gava Miguvrin, why are you different than any other man? Amalei, the Marit Sava, because the master, meaning the Caesar, said I should be. So Rabbi Akiva said, Shabbos Nami, the Marit Sava. The Mari, the Kadosh Baruch Hu said, it's different. So Amalei, so Turner Super said, Hachi Kaminalach. This is what I told you. Mi Yema the Idna Shabbat. How do you know now is Shabbos? How do you know now is Shabbos? So maybe it's another day. So Amalei, Rabbi Akiva told him, Nahar Sabbatyan Yochiach. The Nahar Sabbatyan will go ahead and this will prove it, right? Because Bal Ov Yochiach and Kivra Shalov Yochiach. Good. Now, how would the Sambatya would throw rocks, not on Shabbos. Ov Yochiach, that Ov what? Doesn't come up on Shabbos. And your father will be Yochiach, why? Shein Maila Oshem b'Shabbos. He's not, your father, the smoke coming out of your father's grave doesn't come out on Shabbos. He's not being, the Marsha says, guys, he was asking three things. Shabbos from the beginning of time, Shabbos now, and Shabbos in the future. Beginning of time is Sambatya was created at the beginning of time. Oivi Yadaini is now, and your father is, you see, Lasad Lava, he's being judged, the the smoke is coming up. Amaloi, so he told him, Bizusai by Shasai v'kilasai. You mavazed me, you embarrassed me, and you cursed me. Shoel oiv hainu v'dar shel amesim. So the pasuk, the pasuk. Let me get the pasuk in Devarim Yudches L'chayra. There is a redundancy over here. What does it say? It says, "V'choy v'chever v'shoyel oivi yedoni v'dorish alamesim." So, according to you, what's the difference between ov v'dorish alamesim? L'chayra, you're both calling up the dead, and the pasuk in Devarim seems to say it's two different things. It says what shoyel v'oiv hainu dorish alamesim. Says more dorish lamesim k'detanya. V'dorish alamesim zeh hamariv atzmai. He goes ahead and he fasts. He mariv atzmai. V'hoylech v'lon b'beisa kvaris. He lies down in a cemetery. That the ruach tumah should be shire on him. When he got to this pasuk of dorish alamesim, he would cry. This person, he goes ahead, what? And he starves himself in order that the ruach tumah should be shire on him. And shire love ruach tumah, and taka is shire upon him. Someone who's ma'ariv atzmai that the ruach taira, the ruach nevuah should be sure on him. Alachas kama v'kama, and it's not. Avama eseh shavonosenu gormulanu shnemar ki im avonosechem hoyu mavdilim beinechem lebein elokechem. That your avonos, they separated you from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Okay, they separated you from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Now the Gemara gets really, really interesting. Now the Gemara gets very, very interesting. Okay, not that it hasn't been interesting till now. Now it gets really interesting. Okay, Amar Rava says Rava on this pasuk, "Iboi tzadiki bari oma." If the tzadikim want, they can create a world. Shenemar kim avonosechem hayim avdilim beinechem lebein achechem. It's your avonos that separate between you and Hashem. So what happens if you don't have avonosechem? Then you do not have that separation between you and Hashem. Good. If you look at the second Rashi when it gets wide, there's no havdalah, and Mamela you'll be like Hashem will help you. You'll be able to create things. Rava bara gavra. Rava created a person. Shadrei l'kamed Reb Zera, and he sent it in front of Reb Zera. Havi come mishtoy ba'adei. Reb Zera was meant to speak to it. Havi come ahadolei, and what? It didn't answer. Samalei michavraya at. Right? You must be someone who was created by one of my fellows. Hadal afrech, go back to your dust. The goylem can't talk. He created a goylem. Rachanina Rabbi Shia have a yasvi called Ma'ila Shabbata. Rachanina Rabbi Shia every Shabbos would go v'asik b'sefer Yitzira. They went ahead. They used the Sefer Yitzira, the book of creation. Or Mibrelu Igla Tilsa. They would create a egla, which is 1/3 of its growth or 1/3 of its born, and it's supposed to be very v'achalei, and they would eat it. So I saw in the Sefer Magalis Hayom. Now I have to look it up. This says Rava. I think the Gemara in Megillah says Rabbah. That there was a Suda, a very famous Suda, where Rava shechted Reb Zera. He got drunk. He got drunk and he shechted him. He got drunk and he shechted him, right? So the next year he invited him back and he said, not every year are you roy to what? Are you roy to... So the Magalis, I want to say, you know what he did? How he invited him? He sent the goylem over, and he showed him, don't worry about it. If I'm capable of creating a person, certainly I can bring back an existing person. That's what I was sending over him. I was showing him. If you're worried that I should shecht you, don't worry. Look, I can create a person, so certainly I'm able to go about it and bring back a person. So Maisa with Reb Chaim Moisa. There was a woman, she was one of the Sarotskins. She was a little girl, and she was supposed to be a brilliant, brilliant girl. She was supposed to be a brilliant girl. She was sitting on Reb Chaim Moisa's lap. She was a girl of 4 or 5 years old. And Reb Chaim Moisa asked her, how could Hashem create the world? It was dark. So first she said Hashem could do anything, and obviously he was not impressed. And then she said, Hashem created the world with a dibur. For a dibur, you don't have to see. And Reb Chaim Moisa was impressed. So you see that the dibur is what is creates the world. It's the dibur that creates the world. It's very fascinating. Okay, Tan Rabbanan. So now we're going through other types of what of kishuf, of avodah different things. It says ma'oinin. It says the pasuk says you should not find a person that's ma'oinin, that practices ma'oinin. What's ma'oinin? So Rav Shimon Oimer zehamavir shiva mine zachar ala ayin. He passes 7 kinds of zachar takes from the zera from other animals over his eyes, and I don't know, and he can do. I guess he can do kishuf. This is someone who is a magician. He goes ahead wide and fools you. So according to the first pshat, Shimon, he does it to himself. According to Chacham, he does it to you. Right? He's an illusionist. Rabbi Kiva says, the person goes ahead and he figures out the best times and hours of the day to do things. But it's like a shtickle superstition. For let's say now is a good time to go. You should go buy things tomorrow. Right? What's that called? Something Friday. You know, with the what's that called? The Amazon Prime Day, something, or whatever. I don't know. Limudei arve shavias chitim yafois. Right. That on the 7th year, it usually goes ahead and produces good wheat. Ikure kitnios me'yois rois. If you go ahead and uproot kitnios, it's not good. Tanan Rabbanan menachesh shus menachesh. Is there only a pita nafla mipiv? Piece of bread from my mouth. I'm gonna have a biyaday. Makla nafla biyada. A stick from my hands. Black cat, ladder. This is all. Benod kairolay miachrav. His son calls him behind him. Oiriv kairolay, or a raven calls to him. Tzvi hifsika b'derech. A tzvi, a hersha. A deer runs across. Nachash memina v'shul mismola. There's a snake over here and a fox over there. Al taschil bi. It says to the tax collector, "Don't begin with me." Shachrasu. It's I'll pay you first thing in the morning. Reish Chodesh, it's Reish Chodesh. Motzei Shabbasu, it's Motzei Shabbos, and each one. Look, Rashi says, "Himtum liad machor, Motzei Shabbasu, Rishon lemei Shvua." So don't. In other words, I'm scared of first. And another thing, Tan Rabbanan, leisenachshuv leisainenu. It says you shouldn't practice nichush, or you should go ahead and calculate the times. Kigoin elu amenachshem bechulda, based on what a weasel does, boifos or bedagim. Again, these are all types of nichush. Now, I thought since we mentioned over Yedoni, I could do 2 things. First of all, there's a huge machlokes. This is the Radak. Does it say Vani Royal Farish? Okay. Says Radak. Vani Royal Farish Hine. This is the Radak on the pasuk in Perich of Ches in Shmuel Aleph. Hine Maisa Ov Lefi Masha Nimtza Kosav. Rabbi saying Azal. Bal Ov Zeha Medaber Mi Ben Aprokim U Ben Atzil Yadav. This is the Gemara we just saw. Yidoni Zeha Maniach Etzem Chayish Shema Yedoa. Bepiv Umedabim Devorim Atidim. It says the future. Upirish Mi Ben Aprokim Shemashmiya Kol Nomoch. You're hearing a low voice Mi Ben Pirkei Evarov from between the body joints. Umitacha Shechiov or underneath his armpit. The Maisa they do that, they flap their armpits. That's how from the armpits you hear what the sound. Even if you burn kataris to a shade, and the shade speaks. It appears if the mace is speaking. Umashmiel kol mitachas aretz, and you hear the voice from underneath the ground. Me'al pi hakever. Kiderech sheshama shol kol shel Shmuel, just like Shol heard the voice of Shmuel. Kol namach ma'od. The kol is very, very low. K'moshe kosav v'hoya ka'oiv me eretz kailech. Hanishal begagoles gam hu yikra voiv. That's also called oiv. Upeirushay sheyesh imoigel goyles shel evan shoham. You have some type of evan shoham, a marble like skull. Oishel schuchis or glass, zacha, that's a crystal. Va'oisa maisim, and they do actions at sheyidma until it appears sheyotze kol namach ma'oid, as if a voice is coming. V'yidma loy ba'oisa kol shoel meisher, and it's mashma v'yidma kach pir shavosenu. This is how our Chacham explain it. Now there's another pshat. See this now, the Rambam? Yeah? No? You don't see this.
No, we don't.
Same Radak.
Okay, so let me go this. Let me go back. Now you see the Rambam?
Yep.
Yeah?
Yes.
So this is Ketzed Maisa Oiv, Zeh Shahaya Oimed Umakte Ketairis, Yedua, Va'oiches Sharvit Shel Hadas, Biyadai, Umeinifai, V'hu Medaber Belat, Bidvarim Yeduim, Etzlam, some type of, heebie-jeebie words, Asher Yishma HaShoyel, until the Shoyel hears, Kilu Echad Medaber Imai, Umeishivai Al Mashu Shoyel Bidvarim, Mitachas Haaretz, B'kol Namuch, Ad Ma'oid, a very low voice, U'keilu Eina Nika La'oizen, El B'machshava Margish Boy. It's not like he hears it, but he thinks it. So I don't know where the Rambam got this from, this waving of the Ketairis, and no mention of this in the Gemara at all. V'chein halakeach el goyles hameis u'maktir la, he doesn't say you speak to it, you maktir to it, u'menachesh ba, asher yishama ki'ilu kol yotzim mitachas shechyav, shafal ad ma'oid, and he combines the two, the Rambam. He says that yes, from the goyles, it's going to come out from underneath your armpit. Kol elu ma'isa oiv hein, v'oisa echa mehem niskal. If you do any of these, you'll get skila. You do any of these things, you'll get skila. Now, what is yedaya? Ketzed ma'isa yedoni. Meniach etzem oif. According to Rashi, it was an animal. This was an oif. Sheshmo yedaya, bepiv, umakdir. You do some type of burning. V'oisa ma'isa acheris at sheyipol kinichpa. You fall to the ground like an epileptic, guys. Again, I don't know where the Rambam got this from. It's a bird. It's a oif, and you're going to put it in your mouth, and you're going to fall and have a seizure. This is having a seizure. You have a seizure. All types of avodah zara. So you have a smorgasbord of different reasons exactly what oif yidani is. Now, the Rambam clearly does not hold of it. It didn't really happen. It didn't really work. It did, and it seems that Ramban disagrees vehemently that it does work. Now, so the whole shiloh is what happened with Shaul. What happened with Shaul? So here's the background. Shaul is going to a battle against the Pelishtim. He is petrified. He doesn't know what to do. He asks all different types of ways, right, to figure out what to do, and he's not getting an answer. And Shaul had gotten rid of all the oivus and yedainim, and he asked Avon Amasa. They found one woman. She was the mother of Tzfanya or Vadya. She was the mother of one of them. She had stopped, and they're asking her to do it again. Again, I don't have an answer to how he could ask her to be over an Aveira or how he himself could be over an Aveira. But that's the bottom line. Okay. And so, Vataima Isha, Elav, Hine no Yadati, Esasher, Asa Shol, Asher Hechris, Oivas Yidanim. Shol got rid of all the Oivas Yidanim in Aretz. V'loma Atem Isnachish Benafshi Lamiseni, why do you want to kill me? Now she's unaware that it's Shol. He came in disguise. Vayishavala Shol Vashem Lamar, Shol swore to her. Chai Hashem im yikari oven b'davazed. You don't have to worry. Nothing's going to happen to you. But Tomer es Isha es mi alelach. Who should I bring up for you? Vayomer es Shmuel halili. Bring up Shmuel for me. Vatera Isha es Shmuel. She sees Shmuel. Vatizak b'kol gadol, and she screams. They say she screamed because the Kovid Malchus, he came up head first instead of feet first. She screamed the Kovid Malchus because the Kovid Malchus came up head first and screamed first. But Tomer Yishal Shol Lamar Lama Rimisani Va'ata Shol, And that's how she knew that it was Shaul. Why'd you trick me? You're Shaul. Because when he came up at first, she realized what? Vayomel HaMelech al Tiri, don't be scared. Kima royas, why do you see? Again, remember, Shaul's not able to see. Vatoma Ishal Shaul, Elohim ro'isi oilim min haaretz. I see Elohim, oilim, guys, is a lotion of plural. I see plural coming up from the ground. Vayomel ma ta'aroi, and Shaul says to her, what is this image? What does he look like? Vatoma ish zaken, he's old, oila, and his zaken was oila. Who oitem il, he's wearing a me'il, he's Vayeda Shaul kishmulu. Shaul knew it was Shmuel. Vayikar apayim artzav ishtachu. And now Shaul bows down. Vayom Shmuel al Shaul. Again, the Isha can't hear him; she can only see him. Shmuel now says to Shaul, "Lama higrastani. Why did you stir me? Lahalois oisi, to bring me up. Lashon higrastani. You stirred me. Vayom Shaul tzarli ma'od. I'm very distressed. Uplishtim l'chamim bi. The plishtim, they're going to war with me. Ve'elahim sarmei alai. Hashem has turned away from me. V'lo yanani od. He's not answering me. Gam benevim, gam bechaloimes, and he doesn't mention the Urim v'Tumim because he's mechapef for Nov who he wiped out. It's Gemara Yud Beis and Brachas. Vayom Shmuel v'lo tishaleni. Hashem sarmei alecha v'yirecha. Why are you asking for me? Hashem has turned away from you. Vayas Hashem loy kashadiber b'yadi. Hashem is doing to you what he said he's going to do. V'yikor Hashem es hamlocha miyadcha v'yitno l'reyach l'David. He's taking the malchus away from you and he's giving it to your friend David because you didn't listen to him. Okay? Anyway. Vayiten Hashem games Yisrael imcha b'yad plishtim, and you're going to lose the battle. Shmuel tells Shaul, you're going to lose the battle. Umachar ata uvanecha imi. And tomorrow, you and your sons, your highness son, and they're going to be with me. You hear this? You're going to lose, you're going to die, and your son's going to die as well. Okay? Anyway, that's the Maisa. So there's a huge kasha, guys. Lo mehir grastani lahalo sesi. This is a Gemara in Chagiga. Rabbi Laza kimati lahaykroa bachi. When he got to this pasuk, he was crying. Vayom shol shol lo mehir grastani lahalo sesi. Guys, higrastani means you're moving me from my place of menucha. Shmuel was died. As of yet, he had not been called to the Yom Adin. Uma Shmuel hat sadik hayim misyari min adin anu alachas kama v'kama. Shmuel mahi. Where do you see Shmuel was scared? V'tayma yishal shol Elohim ro'isi oilim min haaretz. Oilim trei mashma. Chad Shmuel v'idach the other Shmuel v'aisi l'Moshe b'hadei. That Shmuel went and he called Shaul and he called Moshe to come along to testify. Right? Amalei Shmuel. Shmuel said to Moshe, Dilmachas v'shalom l'dina kamat va'ina. They're going ahead and calling me to dim. Kum b'hadoi, come with me. The leka milsa the ksiv b'raisa like yamte. That there's nothing in the Torah that I did not keep. Says the Gemara in Chagiga, Apeladik Gemara, that when he called it up, who did he call? He called up Shmuel. Who did Shmuel come up with? Moshe. Oilim. There were two. Why? Because Shmuel thought he was being called to the Yom Adin. Shmuel thought he was being called to the Yom Adin. Yeah? And what did he do? He brought Moshe along. So you see from here, the Sefer Nishmas Chaim says, up to 12 months, a person can be in the kever and not called to the Yom Adin yet. 12 months. You can be in the kever and not called to the Yom Adin yet. That's what he says. But Nishmas Chaim clearly says he thought he was being called to the Yom Adin and he brought Moshe along. Okay, so far no problem. Okay, now, what does he say to him? He says, Hashem has turned away from you, which is true. And guess what? V'yitin Hashem games Yisrael, u'machar ata v'necha imi. And tomorrow, you and your sons are going to be with me, right? Where's imi with me? Says the Gemara in Shabbos, fellas, in Brachas Yud Beis. Imi b'mechitzasi. You're going to be in the same mechitza of Olam Haba as I am. I had this question, guys, for I don't know how many years. The Gemara just said he thought he was being called to the Yom Adin. How could he possibly know which mechitza in Shemayim he is? That he told Shaul, you're going to be in the same mechitza with me. If he wasn't called to the Yom Adin, he doesn't know where he is in Shemayim, right? So how can he go ahead and how can he say that? How can he say, you know what? Good. You're with me? You hear the kasha? Powerful kasha. Anyway, I had this kasha, I don't know how many years. About 20 years ago in Purim, I was sitting between Benji and Ari, and zetzt into my head this teretz. So I share with you, I think it's a Gavaldica teretz. Okay? On the pasuk that says, Vayitin Hashem gam es Yisrael u'mocha tov v'necha imi, here's a Yalkut Shemaini, Chelik Beis Remes Kuf Mem Aleph. It's also in Pirkei Rabbi Eliezer, Perek Lamed Gimel. Rabbi Yonasan Omer, Kol HaNeviim nisnavnu b'chayehem. All Nevi'im, they said Nevuah in their lifetimes. U'Shmuel nisnave b'chayav u'la'acham ha'yisasai. And Shmuel was nisnave not only in his lifetime, but even after he died. Sha'ama Shmuel l'Shaul. Shmuel went ahead and he told Shaul, what did he tell him? Im ata shemea leitzasi. If you listen to my advice, lipo b'cherev, to die in battle, tehei misascha kapara lecha, your misa will be a kapara for you. V'yeh goyrolcha imi, and your goyrol, your lot will be b'makam shani sharisham. And the makam that what, where I'm lying, you'll be there. V'shama Shaul leitzasai, Shaul listened. V'nerag hu banav imai, sheyichelku mishmul hanavi, shenemar imi, ibim mechitzasi. You'll be in the same chelik as olam haba as me. So, says the Gemara, says the Medrash fellas, that Shmuel not only said Nevuah when he was alive, he even said Nevuah after he's dead. He said what? Shaul, tomorrow you're going to be with me. That's the Nevuah, that you're going to die and you're going to be with me. Again, so why do we establish that this word, Zumacharat Avenecha, guys, is Nevuah, correct? When he said that you're going to be with me is Nevuah. Okay. Now with that in mind, let's go back. In Shmuel Aleph, Perek Yud Beis, Shmuel is giving Bnei Yisrael, he's giving them Musa for having gone ahead and asked for a king. You asked for a king? Okay. And he's giving them Musa. And he's talking. Vayishlach Hashem, Hashem sent you, Es Yerubal, he sent you Gidon, the Es Bidon, and he sent you Shimshon, the Es Yiftach, and he sent you Yiftach. And who's talking, fellas? Shmuel. And who else did he send you? There's Shmuel. And he also sent you Shmuel. Vayatzel Eschem Yaravechem, and he saved you. So Shmuel refers to himself in third person. Says this is the a Shmedrash Shachatayv, guys. Tzaddik. It's Chelik Yalkut Chelik Beis Remes Taf Mem Aleph. Vayishlach Hashem veShmuel. Amar Rabbi Elazar b'Shem Rabbi Yossi ben Zimra. Kol HaNeviim hayim misnavoyim v'lehoyu yoidim mahim misnavoyim. All Nevi'im said Nevuah, and they didn't know what they were saying. All Nevi'im said Nevuah, and they didn't know what they were saying. Ela Moshe v'Yeshaya b'levad. Only Moshe and Yeshaya. Where's your proof? Amar Rabbi Elazar b'Shem Rabbi Yossi. Af Shmuel Rabban Shel Nevi'im. Even Shmuel, who was the head, Rabban Shel Nevi'im, Hoyim Misnava, he said Nevuah, and he didn't know what he was saying. Shenemar, Vayishlach Hashem es Yerubal, ve'es Bidon, ve'es Yiftach, ve'oisi loy nemar. And he didn't say he sent me, Ella Shmuel. He sent you Shmuel. Because he didn't know what the Nevuah was saying. The fact that he referred to himself, you see his words in the Nevuah. So I think, fellas, we can answer the kasha beautifully. Umacharata v'necha is what Nevuah, as we proved, right? That every Navi is Misnava in their life. Only Shmuel is Misnava after his death. We're also proving that a Navi b'shas Nevuah doesn't know what he's saying. It's a very geschmack. Shmuel Taka had not been called to the Yom Adin. Umacharata v'necha is what? Is Nevuah. And Shmuel, when he said Nevuah, did not know what he's saying. And therefore he could say, Macharata v'necha you're with me in the same chelik of Olam Haba. Did we get that? I think it's geschmack. Okay, Bez Hashem, tomorrow morning, Bez Hashem. Okay, let's say Tehillim.